This is IA Forward, your playbook for success as an independent insurance agent. Here to help you knock it out of the ballpark are your hosts, Shane Tatum and Tonya Lee.
Welcome to IA Forward. It is an exciting day at our house, Shane.
You want me to get excited this early in the morning. I know you had a 5 a.m., 6 a.m. radio show in your past. What time did you
Started at 5.
start? So I know this is normal for you to get up and talk. The rest of the world doesn't always just get up and talk and be excited. And so you're hitting me with excitement first thing in the morning. Let's go.
I do want to point out the fact that I would have to talk to myself out loud all the way to work for my voice to even begin to sound normal. And Dave, our fabulous producer and my former morning show host, we wouldn't speak to each other. People would make the assumption that we would come in and we would have this plan and we would do all this stuff and we would talk. And when I tell you we did not speak to each other until you opened that mic up, we didn't actually have a conversation or say hello until about 7:20 in the morning. There was silence in that room before that.
I'm obviously the get up and talk person. This is not the favorite thing to the other half of our house. I am the morning person, which is so funny because she has been waking up at 4:45 to 5 a.m. and running/walking now for 24 years with her running, walking partner. Our kids have grown up. We've lived life together, yet she's not the morning person. As soon as she comes back in from that walk, she has no interest in having a conversation at all, to your point with you and Dave from the former morning show. But I'm full of information that she needs to have. Some really ridiculous article I read about some new technology with crops. That's actually a true story from this morning. But she doesn't need that. And I need to tell her more than she needs to hear. It's really interesting that some of us are morning people and some of us are not.
Yeah, the cute boy is a morning person and he comes at me and he's bubbly and he's happy and he's talking about stuff and he'll look at me and he'll be like, okay, I'm too much for you right now, aren't I? And I'm like, yes. I don't even have to say it out loud. I just give him that yes look. And he goes, I'm going to go in my office. I'm like, okay.
We've been holding it in all night long. I know we're sleeping, but it's really, we didn't get to talk. And so talkers and morning people, we just need to get it out. Full apologies to all the non-morning people, non-talking people out there in the world today.
Those people are probably listening to this podcast about 4 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the afternoon. So speaking of Julie and the incredible person that she is, 3 years ago, she put me on a journey. She knew that my weight, my lifestyle, my health was really weighing on me, and I wasn't happy with where I was physically. And my boss's wife put me on a diet, is what I always say. But she introduced me to this plan that had worked for her and that she was on. And I joined her on this journey. And after 3.5 years, I hit my goal weight this morning.
That is exciting. And just to clear the air for the politically correct crowd out there, that is not the way we roll. Like, you don't come into this organization and my wife decided to put you on a diet. Let's just clear the air here. My wife decided to have a diet lifestyle change approach. She'd done a lot of research, read so much around sugar, around carbs, and it transformed her. It's really amazing. We saw some pictures from pre-change, and it was just like, I never really realized where she was to where she has become and has moved to. And you just feel better. When you eat better, you feel better. Even if you don't lose a bunch of weight, I just contend that you feel better. And I'll just use me. I haven't really changed weight as I, quote, follow her in her lifestyle diet eating, because my deal is I'm not going to eat differently than her because that's just going to make it harder on her. And so I'm going to eat with her. So I get the byproduct, even though I'm not as disciplined. When we're in Lawrence, Kansas, Emma wants to go to Silas and Maddie's, an ice cream parlor, and I fully participate. in that endeavor. But that's like once every now and then. But most of the time I'm following my wife in her diet and I'm eating right along with her. I just feel better.
The reason I brought that up on the podcast this morning, beyond being really excited, is it reminded me of something that Matt Desmond, who, shout out to Matt, is our Integra Partner Agent of the Year. And he spoke at our conference a few weeks ago, and I loved how he talked about goals. And it was a little bit different, and it resonated with me. And he said, figure out what annoys you the most, think about the very specific problem, and then find a solution. And so many people set goals arbitrarily. They decide, I want to lose 20 pounds. I want to sell XYZ business this month. I want to work out 3 days a week. And they set this goal, and it's a goal that's just set because it sounds good. But in talking with people about goal setting, I'll hear them say, okay, this month I want to lose 10 pounds. This month I want to lose 10 pounds. And then I'm talking to them 7 months later, and this month I want to lose 10 pounds. And I'm like, okay, so I'm just asking, is this the same 10 pounds that you have wanted to lose for the last 7 months? Or have you lost 60 pounds and now we're on to pound 60 through 70? And it's usually the same 10 pounds. And I'm like, then that's not a goal for you. You haven't actually made a plan. You haven't followed through. So let's put that aside. Let's put that in the tickler file and focus on something that you really want to do as opposed to a goal that you think you need. And I loved Matt's idea of figure out what annoys you the most and find a solution. So for me, what annoyed me the most was how I felt and how I looked and the fact that I couldn't find any cute clothes. And so I found a plan, I found a solution, made it happen. Now, I'm not going to say that I haven't failed 42,000 times before that, but I never really committed long-term to a plan. I never figured out what worked for me. And I love this idea. What annoys you the most? And let's figure out how to fix it.
It brings up the thought just from the business perspective of salespeople as they transition into agency ownership around, I want to grow revenue to X. I want to grow my revenue this year from $500,000 a year to $1 million a year. Why do you want to do that? And people look at me when I ask that question because they're like, why wouldn't I want to make more money? Growing revenue in an agency that needs infrastructure and staff and service people and all these things doesn't necessarily mean you're going to make more money. And as a business owner, you have to be able to think about that. And I love applying this to why do you want to do what you want to do, which is what I understand what you're saying, which is brilliant, which is what Matt's saying. Maybe it annoys you. Maybe it's just you want to do something, but you can't really answer the question truthfully to why you want to do it. I want to lose 10 pounds. Why? Because everybody says they want to lose 10 pounds? That's not a valid why. Business owners, I want to grow my revenue to $1 million. Why? If you can tell me, because well, I want to grow my revenue to $5 million because that's going to put me in a different ballpark of valuation, prospects for exit. If there's a why behind it that creates this foundation for the goal, okay. If there is a why behind you're trying to solve this pain point and you want to invest in this tool, then I can get behind that. But just to say, I like the way it looks doesn't answer Matt's question of find out what annoys you. This is all connected into this world of whether it's goal setting or whether it's achievement out there beyond the horizon that you want to reach one day as a business owner. I really want us to get down to the core of why do you want to do that?
If you're doing a goal setting session with me, I'm going to ask you why 3 times. You're going to tell me your goal. I'm going to ask you why. I'm going to say, but why, to make you dig deeper. And then I'm going to ask you, but why, and make you dig a little deeper. And then I'm going to ask you, but why again. And Shane loves to tell people that I am the most annoying question asker on the planet. Go ahead. You can say it.
Very annoying. It's super annoying. That was our first interaction. Who are you and why are you asking me so many questions? Turns out to be a good thing. They're good questions. And interestingly enough, are you a Swiftie?
I wouldn't say I'm a Swiftie. I appreciate her music. I appreciate what she has built. But am I going to spend $1,500 to go see her live in concert? Not so much.
Yeah, no. I have 2 daughters. They love Taylor Swift and music and all that. I'm familiar with Taylor Swift. Of course, we're Chiefs fans. And I saw a comment from Patrick Mahomes recently on social media that Patrick Mahomes had a lot of respect for Taylor Swift because of the questions that she would ask trying to learn the game of football. And his comment was, it's like she's trying to become a coach or something. That's how thoughtful and the way she was approaching learning the game of football, which she may not, obviously doesn't have a lot of knowledge of. And now she's dating one of the best tight ends in the history of football. Here you go. I thought about you when I saw that. And I thought, I bet he is really annoyed to have Taylor Swift asking him a gazillion questions if they're just trying to relax off the football field. I can just paint that scene, Patrick Mahomes and his wife and Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift, and they're just having dinner. And here comes Taylor Swift in Tonya fashion, just peppering Patrick Mahomes with questions. And I just want to eat my mac and cheese. Ask yourself those questions of why you want to do what you say you want to do. Why do you want to set the goal that you want to set? This is really important for salespeople trying to become business owners.
And write it down. I personally believe that there's something powerful about writing it in your own handwriting. You can do it on the computer. I get it. It's quick, it's fast, whatever. But to me, there's just something that goes deeper in your brain when you pick up your pencil, your pen, specifically in blue ink, and you write it down yourself. And you ask that question, why, and you answer it and you write it down, and you ask why again and you write it down, and it goes into your brain differently.
I put my notes on my phone, Tonya. Isn't that writing it down? I pull my app up and I put the note down there. This is what I want to do. Are you telling me that I need to get a piece of paper and a real ink pen and actually use writing skill and write it down somewhere? It's on my phone.
I would be willing to bet that within arm's reach of you, there is a black leather moleskin notebook that has an elastic tie around it that you could grab and do this if I asked you to do it.
I do. I have that, but I'm a recovering salesperson. What about our not yet recovering salespeople? What about our salespeople that own agencies, that have started agencies? What about our Gen Z millennial crowd? They just want to pop open the app and put it on their phone. Why do I need to write it down if it's on my phone? I know you have a real reason, like a big reason. So why is that so vital? Because, by the way, I agree with you.
I constantly use my app and my stylus to write notes to myself. I don't want anyone to get the impression that I am anti-technology, that I am anti-phone. I am consistently using my stylus and or typing things into my note-taking app. I am doing this all the time. However, that being said, if you look at research, if you look at what works long term, I know that when setting these types of goals, when figuring out what you're going to do with your business, it's just best to go ahead and get your thoughts out on paper. Not only that, people that handwrite in journals owning businesses make over $50,000 a year more than people that don't. So this isn't necessarily research that I've just made up. This is stuff that you can look up and see. And historically, the greatest minds in the world write their thoughts down. And if it works for people like Bill Gates and Winston Churchill, it works for me.
I love the idea of writing it down in pen. Now, what's really interesting is that I've fallen in love with red ink for contrast when I go back through my notes and check what I wrote, because that's another important thing, is to review what you write down periodically. And if you really want to put yourself on a little bit of a pedestal as a business owner, which is okay at times, there's times for that. And that's back to the celebration, is to keep your notebooks, papers, moleskin, whatever you actually write in, and go back and read those from a couple of years ago. Because over time, as you collect these things, it becomes a celebration of progress. And if you've asked the why and you've set the goal correctly, to Tonya's point, then you get to go back and really understand just how much progress you have actually made. And that is valuable to a business owner because you live and operate in a vacuum. No one really celebrates you at all because it's the whole message of it's lonely at the top. You may celebrate your people. You may have a great marketing and branding person who reminds you that people need to be celebrated, even though you're not a celebration person like me. But the one thing that doesn't really happen is in that silo or that vacuum of ownership, CEO of a business agency. All our agencies are businesses, whether you realize it or not. There is not a lot of celebration that's going to go on throughout your life, throughout your world, your very personal world. Your celebration is going back and looking at what you wrote and the goals you set and going, aha, wow, I really have accomplished something here. You can't do that if you don't write it down. And it just doesn't have the power and impact if it's not written down in ink. I love the fact that you brought this up and that it's researched and that it's not just opinion, that it is foundational facts that this is the case around writing things down versus typing it or speaking it into some voice recorder or whatever. It just doesn't have the same power.
Sometimes people are scared to write it down because they don't want to fail. And then they had set a goal, they didn't accomplish it. If they didn't write it down, then they don't have to face the fact that it didn't happen.
That one is interesting to me, and I struggle with understanding that. As a lifelong baseball player, failure was at the core of my life from about 5 years old. And when you fail 7 out of 10 times at the plate, when you're in a game of failure, you tend to learn that there's the next at bat, there's the next game, there's the next whatever. And I would contend that salespeople should be really good at understanding failure and being able to figure out a way to push through that. I do see where this can happen to people, where it's okay if I don't really commit to it. If I write it down, I'm really committed to it. If I'm really committed to it, I really have to do it. If I really have to do it, what if I can't do it? And I recently had a conversation with a guy about that. What if I'm terrible at this? If you're not, this optimistic view of things is something that we all should have, that we all need to get our head around, because that's it. As a business owner, as an agency owner, if you're not optimistic, if you don't think you can do what it is that you're writing down to do, then how can the people around you believe that it's possible? How can you lead others down that path, which is what we have to do? Hate to say it like a NASA engineer, but we're like in a zero fail environment when it comes to the long game. Doesn't mean you're going to have little failures along the way, but we almost have to push through as business owners to some success point down the road. Now, is it the ultimate success point? Let's talk about your goal weight. If you make it to within 10 pounds of your goal weight, how much weight would you have lost within 10 pounds?
Within 10 pounds would have been 100 pounds-ish.
Which is like top 100th of 1% in the world.
So I lost 160
Okay.
pounds today. So let's just go there. That's it. That's the number.
If you would have set that goal to lose 161 pounds and you would have made it to 151 pounds and just couldn't get that extra 10 pounds done, would you have failed?
No.
And the answer is absolutely not. We have this business owner, salesperson kind of conflict going on that I want to reach $1 million in sales and I'm currently at $500,000 and I made it to $930,000 in revenue and I'm failing because I didn't make my $1 million goal.
The reason that happens for most people, to me, are former bad sales managers, because sales managers set goals, and if you don't reach them, then you have failed. So we look at ourselves the same way because that's what we have been taught by other managers.
Shameless plug, if you need to be recovered from a bad sales manager, come find your way to the Integra Partner Network, and we will show you a different way of doing this. There is a different way. It doesn't have to be getting beat over the head by a district manager, a field manager, a sales manager. There's another way to do insurance. There's another way to be successful in the insurance industry as a salesperson in the independent agency channel. The podcast is IE Forward, so let's just understand where we're coming from here. There's another way to do this that still has sales goals, still has all that competitive fight and flavor to it that will result in something different, and it will feel much better. And I have 100 and something people that will give testimony to that. And so this is the reality of Tonya's point, is don't let your past dictate your future.
Right now, looking at our business, what annoys you the most, except for the marketing people?
I love the marketing people. Please don't do that. What annoys me more than anything today is fragmented data. We have incredible amounts of data, and we're struggling to do things with that data. We're struggling as an industry, not just us as an organization, not just agencies as an organization, as organizations, individual agencies, companies. I mean, there's a handful that are fantastic at data. There's a few carriers out there that are incredible at data. Agencies need more ways to understand the data they have that can help them be more successful, grow better. There's things that carriers have under lock and key that it's arguable that it's our data, or it's at least shared data, and we can't see it in the same format that we need to see it. We can't see the trends that we need to see. I went down this path with dwelling fire in the past, and things that it was intended to do versus things that's happened with it in our industry. Agents having better tools to understand that data, to see the trends, would help an end result that everybody's trying to get to. But we're somewhat kept in the dark. We're somewhat kept in the dark on that because we're, quote, salespeople. But we're salespeople only to the point that until the trend isn't good, and then we're business people. And when the trend's not good, they want you to be business people. My contention is we got to be business people day one on the front side of that, so that we don't see that trend go sideways, so that we can help on the front line explain to our carrier partners, hey, this is what we're seeing. This is what's happening. Is this what you intended? Because so many times product managers and carriers work in vacuums, and they think they have this solution, and they release something, and the market conditions and the utilization of that product is something totally different than they intended. Seeing and using data right now is a big pain point for me.
And you found a solution for this. We have a Turner.
We have a Turner, and get you a really smart Gen Zer who can teach himself some programming on the side and tell him to go to work.
Hire a chemist.
Hire a chemist. There you go. We're fortunate that we met Turner almost 2 years ago, but we're also fortunate that we have this person that has this extreme talent within the organization. And there are tools starting to be developed in order to do this better, because people are starting to understand and see that this is a gap. This is a gap on the agency side. I know that when you're starting an agency, when you're growing an agency in its early years, over the first 5 years or so, this is not your top of mind thing. But it would be awesome, since it's there, if it could just be there the whole time, that you could just learn this the whole time. And that goes back to our management systems. CRMs don't necessarily have these tools. It's not always their fault, because the download only gives a certain amount of data. So you're just handcuffed around data that you are able to collect, in how that data gets reproduced in something that makes sense.
So figure out what annoys you, think of the very specific problem, and then find a solution. And thank you to Matt Desmond for sharing that idea with us. I'm going to leave us today with this quote from Michael Jordan. We used this one a long time ago, but it is so incredibly relevant to the conversation today. I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games. 26 times I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed. I've failed over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed.
Attitude's a choice. Make a great one.
Bye, y'all.
Ready to get the ball rolling with your independent agency? Learn more at IntegraAgent.com. That's IntegraAgent.com. Thank you for joining us on IA Forward. Make sure you never miss a show by clicking the subscribe button now or learn more at IAForward.com.